right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Health, Wellness, Wisdom. So good to be with you as always. Well, today's Monday. It's our week where we have a conversation with Dr. Stewart. So before I bring him in, let me share a few things for some housekeeping about some topics that I'm working on and so forth. By the way, just to answer quickly one question from one of the viewers who asked last time about how green the bananas ought to be. Not too, just a little bit of greenish. The reason being, and this is according to my dietitian that I asked, when bananas are so ripe, they tends to spike your blood sugar. That is reason why I mentioned about having the greenish banana. So anyway, I just wanted to answer that one. So today's topic, by the way, we're gonna be talking about a migraine. What is it? And I don't know a lot about it, so that's why I'm very excited to bring in Dr. Stewart. Here he is. Hello, Doc. How are you?
Hello, Dr. O. I'm doing very well. And the topic we're doing today is really personally exciting to me because I've had 35 years of dramatic success with dealing with people with migraines.
Oh my gosh. Well, here is the funny thing. This might surprise you, or might surprise the viewers. I never had a migraine in my life. So I don't even know what it is and what to look for. Yeah, what is it? Is it like a headache, or is it some sort of you feel nauseated, or what?
Oh my God. For one thing, it's one of the top three, it's number three worldwide of illnesses that people experience. That lets you know how really tragic this is and how prevalent it is. It's number three worldwide.
Wow.
And we have evidence that this has gone back thousands and thousands of years. We have, I don't know how they did it, but they actually found ways to treat migraines 35,000 years ago. What they did was they'd taken and cut here and take a piece of the scalp out, take a piece of the skull out.
Wow.
And it wasn't a rare event. Okay.
Wow.
Enough scary history.
I know. Yeah. Well, first of all, how does migraine happens? Like, what will be sort of the leading factor? Like, for example, just to break it down in a simple terminology, if I am to say somebody who become, let's say, heart attack,
Yeah.
or something like that. So usually you'll find that the connection to that, beside the genes, is that they either eat so much sugar, so much bad fat, the lifestyle, and all combination of that leads to either a heart attack or some sort of that. So with migraine, what is, how does it happen to begin with?
Well, what we have is the blood vessels in your brain are a particular diameter. And when that diameter is expanded or shrunk, it causes all sorts of other symptoms throughout your brain and throughout your upper body, sometimes other places as well. You're going to feel nauseated. You might vomit. Your vision might change. You might start seeing colors. You're sensitive to sounds. You're sensitive to smells. You're sensitive to bright lights or flickering lights. And what we have is, and I didn't mention the main thing.
Yeah.
You're sensitive, you have enormous pain, throbbing, aching pain. And as I sat over the years with people who were having these, figuring out what to do for them, they were in agony.
Now you mentioned the light. Now I do know. I remember when I was teaching, I had one of my students wasn't showing up, so I got concerned. So I reached out to the front office and I said, "Well, I don't mean to pry into, but that the welfare of my students, and I tend to always make sure that they are okay." So I reached out and they said, "Well, Dr. O, he won't be able to come over to class." And I said, "Is there a reason that I I'm authorized to know.
Yeah.
They said he had a concussion. He was a football player.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And now you mentioned that there is sensitivity to light. No, I do know that if you get a concussion, you become sensitive to light.
You certainly can.
Is there a link between the two?
We don't think so. However, we have examples of physical trauma or physical overuse of the body that will trigger migraine headaches. So it's one of the causations that we can talk about a little later. But a head trauma just might trip a person right into a migraine.
Interesting.
By the way, these things, the sensitivity to migraines seems to have a big genetic component.
So this is like through heredity, sort of in genes.
Yeah. The vast majority of people who have migraines have a close-in family member who also has migraines. So there seems to be some real genetic commonalities here. And by the way, there's a whole lot of mystery about this. The only mystery that's not in my mind is what to do about it. And we can talk about that a little later. And there's a great variety of symptoms for these things. I listed a few, but there are others as well. And so if a person is in doubt, they really ought to get a diagnosis that tells them what the real story is. And that means they'd have to go to some healthcare practitioner who's skilled at diagnosing migraine headaches. And they're so common that there are a lot of centers around, although they typically want to give you a medication.
Of course, we do medication here in the West for everything.
As opposed to really managing it. There's a rebound.
That's the pharmaceutical.
Yes.
You know how it is. It's pharmaceuticals going to push for medications.
Well, without stepping into, my sense is that practically everybody knows that now.
They should.
And that's why 2/3 of prescriptions that the doctor gives are never picked up at the pharmacy.
Wow.
2/3?
Wow.
People don't want to take them.
Yeah. I don't blame them.
Well, do we want to take them?
No.
If I was absolutely convinced that it would be a big benefit, I would.
Yeah.
But
so now the sound. I need to get back to this because the reason I'm pointing at this stuff, Doc, is because I'm trying to understand the link. When you say the sound, also people get sensitive to sound. Is that correct?
Oh yeah.
Now
it's
here's
enormous sensitivity. Yeah. It's like,
and here's the reason why I'm saying this. My mother, she passed away. My mother had a high blood pressure.
Oh yeah.
And one of the things that would bother her was the sound. She always wanted to be in a quiet environment. Now, did she have migraine that I didn't know about, or what?
These things are tricky because you have high blood pressure. You have all kinds of things going wrong with your body.
Yeah.
And we know that high blood pressure is one of the triggers for migraine headaches.
Oh.
It's also a trigger for kidney failure. All these things, your body's not designed to go up to have real high blood pressure.
Yeah.
It's designed to be around 117/68 and a little higher as you age, but not like 400, not like 290. Your system is just not designed to manage that, and it eventually kills you. So
yeah. So what triggers migraine? Is it bad food beside the genes? Is it the environment? Is it how come some people get it and others don't?
Well, we know there has to be some genetic predisposition for it, or there seems to be. I don't want to step into territory that the research does not support.
Okay.
And anyone who works in this domain can claim a whole lot of, we don't really understand it, but here's what we think is going on.
Yeah.
Here's the number one thing that triggers it. And this is primarily for women. they go through hormonal changes. It might be the monthly cycle, it might be pregnancy, it might be menopause, but about the time that their estrogen, especially in the form of estradiol, starts waving up and down, they say if they're prone to it, they're going to get a migraine. Now, the nice thing about that is there are herbal remedies for that take care of it within hours. And so these wild fluctuations of hormones don't have to happen. And I've had some remarkable successes in dealing with migraines, and all we did was regulate the hormones simply and inexpensively, and it worked. So that's really number one. Number two is, and I think you alluded to it before, is high stress. You know, about the time you start dumping, the adrenal glands are the system that deals with stress. They sit right above your kidneys, and they pump out something called cortisol. Now, in the right amount, it really works and gives you energy. When it starts skyrocketing, it's pro-inflammatory. So now we have all this inflammation going on, and what that means is the blood vessels now are either expanded or contracted, and mostly it's contraction, and because they're irritated, and now we start getting headaches and migraines. It's in the blood flow and the blood vessels that this phenomena seems mostly to live. So we want stress to be as low as possible. And our old friend, lack of sleep, is number 3.
Wow.
You know, we talk about sleep every single time we talk because sleep is that important. If you tell the audience your sleep pattern, they need to hear this because this is as good as it gets.
Yeah.
You sleep 9 hours?
Yeah, for me, I go to bed at 9 p.m., 2100 hours, and I sleep through till about 6:30, 6:45. Yeah.
You know, as long as I've known you, you seem to have had boundless energy.
Yeah, but also because of the type of food I eat, the type of supplements I take.
Oh yeah.
Man, I am lucky. Of course, I know you, but I also have access to a dietitian that understands about food and all that. I don't eat outside much, hardly ever. Once, probably a month, if I ever. Most of the food at home is made. I don't touch sugar much. I'll have a treat here and there once a month, a little bit of ice cream once every 5 months or 6 months. That's about it. I don't eat a lot of carbs, but
and you exercise a lot.
Yeah. What was it?
You exercise. You walk.
Yes, I do. I train every day, basically in the morning. So,
well, then we go to more food triggers, because there are things that really let me clarify this. If a person is going to really get control of their migraines, and they seem to be surprised when they come on, if they'll start a journal and write down how well they slept, how much was their stress, what foods did they eat, because very frequently a migraine will come on within an hour of eating the wrong thing. Now, sometimes it takes a little longer, but sometimes if it happens within an hour, you can start putting cause and effect together. And if you're going to own this so it doesn't continue to be a bad symptom and ruin your life, you can control what you put in your mouth. And let's start with aged cheese. Oh, that's a bad one. It doesn't mean all cheese. It's just the really aged ones. Overdoing caffeine. Now, we already know you don't want any caffeine after noon. 12 noon, you better be done with all the caffeine you're going to take. And anything that has nitrates in, all the processed meats like salami and bologna and all that, they're loaded with nitrates. And they're vasoconstrictors. Oh, and here's one we don't like. It's chocolate. Chocolate has the same kind of stuff in it. And red wine, beer, and here's really a bad one. MSG, monosodium glutamate. Very popular in Asian food. And because it really is a flavor enhancer. And they sneak it in under a lot of different names. So you buy one of these frozen dinners, it's almost guaranteed to have MSG in it. Well, it's going to be some protein. They're going to have a different name for it. And things like aspartame, all the artificial sweeteners. Let me just run through that list one more time so anyone who's really interested can get it. Aged cheese, caffeine, processed meats, chocolate, red wine, beer, MSG, and artificial sweeteners. Matter of fact, it'd be okay for everybody to stay away from those things. But if you've got migraines, you pretty well better be figuring out which one of those is the real trigger that's going to put you into hours, if not days, of agony.
Yeah. Now, does this one sort of gets worse as you grow older, or does it stay stable throughout whatever till you deal with it?
I really don't know. I never saw a child with it, but I saw lots of middle-aged and older adults with it. I'll tell you a story. A man said he was about 55, and he said, I have migraines, pulsing, throbbing migraines. I think he had them on the right side. 23 hours a day. He said, this has absolutely ruined every part of my life. And I started him on, actually, a program I'm going to talk about a little later about. I started him on a serotonin program, which is one of the 4 fabulous ways to manage this. And within 3 weeks, he had 1 hour of migraines and 23 hours of freedom to live his life. So what would do? It was an interesting coincidence. He did it the reverse: 23 hours of pain, 1 hour of freedom, to 23 hours of freedom, 1 hour of pain. And I said, we can adjust the amount of serotonin that we're using, and we'll get rid of that last hour of pain that you've got. He said, you're not touching me, sir. I am so happy that I've only got 1 hour of pain. I'm not messing with this another second. I'm good to go.
Yeah, he got his life back.
He got 23 hours a day of his life back. He was beyond thrilled.
Well, that is the sort of the key question that a lot of people do not. I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I'll speak for myself. I always ask myself the question, do I have a quality life? Am I living a quality life?
Yeah.
Or am I just going through the process, through the routine, without enjoying it? So I can only imagine for somebody with a migraine headache that takes hours and hours, how that's going to impact his or her life, daily life, that is, and what kind of quality of life is going to be.
He rated his, on a scale of 1 to 10, he rated his quality of life as 1. Yeah, well, not now.
Yeah.
Now he's got 23 hours to do whatever he really wants to do.
Yeah.
Let's go over a couple of other things that you can do. The people who are prone to this, if they get dehydrated, they're gonna inspire a migraine. So this thing about drink enough fluids, and we're really talking about drinking water. We're also talking about not eating enough. About the time you really start stressing your body with low blood sugar and you start starving your cells, it puts a strong stress signal through your adrenal glands, dumps cortisol in, and now you're prone to Oh God, it's here again. Oh, the nice thing about most migraines is they'll give you a 24-hour notice before they show up.
Hmm.
They'll give you a signal that says, I don't feel well. Oh, I think it's coming on. I think that's the
Yeah.
time to do something about it.
Yeah. I'm noticing one of our viewers, Phil, he's writing here. Do allergies have to do anything with it?
I have no experience with allergies triggering this. I can't, I've not read it anywhere in the research. And all the
Yeah.
people that I worked with that were not showing allergies. Although
Okay.
you could say, these aged cheeses, processed meats, chocolate, wine, you could call those allergies.
Yeah, but I do eat chocolate once in a while, and I'll have a dark chocolate
Yeah,
and one small piece, just very,
yeah,
very small. But even with the dark chocolate, I always make sure it's about 80%.
yes.
Yeah. More than 70%. I've always have that, either 70 or both. But usually it's 80%. Small piece and
And there's a lot of evidence that chocolate that's that high a percentage is loaded with antioxidants, which is a good thing. It's full of micronutrients.
yeah.
So chocolate in and of itself is a good thing. It's about the time you put a lot of milk in it, and who knows what else they put in it in terms of oils, and a bunch of sugar, it's no longer your friend. It just tastes creamy and good. But it's there to poison you and clog your arteries. There's some other things that trigger this. Some people are triggered by a really strong odor. So they get into
Hmm.
some surprisingly bad odor and it triggers a migraine. You're going, really? So, and here, here's something that might be an answer.
Yeah.
Because some people are triggered by dairy products, like milk.
Uh-huh.
So and that would have to somehow be in the range of allergy. Although I never thought about it like that. So I guess we have some evidence that allergies do trigger this. But for me, the thing always was, how do I get people motivated? Because remember, my PhD is in psychology. Even though I'm trained in clinical nutrition and other things. What to do about this?
Yeah.
And so real early on, I said, there has to be something mechanical is going on here for these blood vessels to do this.
To contract, yeah.
Yeah. And so I said, let me just try something. And I probed around on somebody and found there was one really tight muscle here going into the
Like in the
head,
back of the neck?
back of the neck going into the shoulder.
Oh.
And I found it and I put pressure on it and moved my hand around for 30 seconds and the headache went away.
Interesting.
Now, it wasn't a cure. But if you have a real bad headache and it's ruining your experience, having someone do that for you, what if you have to do it every hour? Now, that's not the solution. But boy, is that nice to have that as a backup tool if someone is having a bad headache or they're having a migraine. Because it worked every time that I did it. And I showed people how to do it, and then they wouldn't do it.
Interesting. So
That's why finding go ahead.
No, go ahead, Doc. Go ahead.
Finding the motivation strategy to get people to do what's good for them is remarkably hard. That's why I always encourage people to have an accountability partner. And you've heard me talk about this before. If you've got someone who you say, I'm going to do this, of course, we're going to talk about solutions now, and you see the person 3 days later and you say, well, I didn't really do it, so I got to suffer. It's embarrassing to give your word and then not live up to it.
Well, a man is as good as his word.
That is really
I'm a
true,
believer of that. Yeah.
especially if it comes to what are you doing in sleep hygiene? What are you doing in anxiety and depression?
Yeah.
What are you doing in headache management?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there are some real smart things to do.
Yeah. I think it's the convenience, the lifestyle we lead, and a lot of people not willing to put the because staying in a good shape requires a commitment.
Oh, does it ever?
Yeah, it doesn't happen on
Staying,
its own.
I mean, we would never use this word with you, but you're relentless in your practices. You
But
do them,
again,
and you've
yeah,
done them
but
for decades.
I've been. That's exactly what I was going to say. This is not new to me. That I just started a decade ago. I've been doing this since I was what 16, 17, 18.
So you've been doing it for decades, and there's this thing that people do is, well, I'm going to continue to do what is familiar.
Hmm.
And if being slothful is familiar, that's what you're going to do. If being
Yeah.
around stressful people
Yeah.
is what's familiar, that you're going to surround yourself with that. And
Yeah.
you had these good patterns since you were about 16. That's what's
Yeah.
familiar to you.
Well, it's also discipline. I had to train this. I had to train the brain.
Right.
I had to train my brain to be very disciplined regarding, my lifestyle. And
Well, now how hard is it?
no, not at all.
Not at
Not at
all.
all.
Yeah.
No.
It's like, of course, that's just what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And we know that the brain to develop any new pattern takes at
Hmm.
least 21 days of doing it every day, and a new habit can be formed.
Interesting. So,
But I like having an accountability partner, uh,
yeah,
and not just for 21 days.
it's important.
The successful alcohol and drug programs, they always have a sponsor, someone
Yeah.
you're accountable to. And it seems to me every darn thing you're going to really start as a new habit, you need someone you're accountable to.
Yeah. It's interesting. Now, this to go back to our migraine topic here. So, I'm sure you traveled around the world
Oh yeah.
throughout your career. I traveled a lot. I know that, and I haven't noticed, even though sometimes you'll have a conversation with the locals and so forth, and if something comes up, like you see somebody holding his head, whatever, I say, "Are you okay? Do you have a migraine?" And they say, "What is that?" That's one time. I was like, I didn't know I didn't know how to explain it because I never experienced it, so I don't know. I said, "Oh, probably." He said, "I don't know what that is." So my question was, or is rather, can we see this between East and West? Because in East, when I say East, Eastern cultures and so forth, they approach things differently. Of course, there is no rush to medication. There's natural herbs. There's their other approach to it.
Yeah.
That's the conventional treatments. For us here, everything medication, even have migraine.
We even have the starting date as to when that happened.
Hmm.
We know that all these really creative, that what we call now complementary medicine, existed in 1900. And then the big pharmaceuticals started forming, and they started sponsoring medical schools. And of course, they're going to say, well, here's the medications that come from chemicals. These are where we make money. So that's what they trained the doctors in. And then they got to the legislators and started making all these other things illegal. Herbology,
Yeah.
homeopathy, body manipulation. I think it's wonderful that chiropractic actually made it through that,
Hmm.
because there's been all kinds of movements to shut that down.
Yeah.
And God knows that for many people, that is chiropractic is a great blessing. And it might even be a partial solution for migraines.
Interesting. Yeah. Once again, not to brag here, Doc. I usually every Friday I go crack my back. But it feels good because, most of the week I'm sitting in front of a computer doing the research
Yeah.
for the program. I mean, a lot of people do not know that having a YouTube channel is a commitment, and there is a lot of work that goes behind the scenes.
I think people would, I don't know if they'd be staggered or not, but they'd be surprised how much research and work you put into doing this. It is a
Yeah, there
lot,
is.
really a
There's a lot of
lot,
things.
to make sure it's a high quality program and the information's accurate.
So
I
that's
know
why
for a fact what you do, how much work you put into it.
So that's why I go on Fridays, crack my back, so I can release my
I think
pressure.
it's a good plan.
And it is. It feels good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the only other country I lived in was Germany, and they complained about Kopfschmerzen, head pain. They knew what it was. And
Interesting.
if the World Health Organization ranks migraines as number 3 in terms of world illnesses,
Yeah.
it lets you know that it's prevalent in a lot of places.
Yeah. Well, at the same time, when it comes down to the the WHO, rather,
Yeah.
the World Health Organizations, I will never trust them anyway, given what they are planning on doing. So for you viewers, pay close attention to what now the WHO, the World Health Organization, is doing in coordination with the UN. Very concerning.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a topic
very.
for another day. Just a heads up. Be aware. Be aware. So how do we deal with migraine? If you want to go not the traditional Western medication and all that stuff, how do we deal with it? How one can deal with that in a natural way?
Well, I've got any number of things that I've worked with over the years. I already
Mhm.
told you about this one for temporary relief.
Yeah.
And anytime I start feeling, I very rarely, but sometimes I get something starts to hurt here. I go right
Hmm.
here,
Hmm.
and it's gone that fast. I go on
Wow.
just right. And not that I'm making any money on any of the things I'm going to recommend, but these are things that I've used over the especially the last 30 years that have made a huge difference quickly for people with migraines. Is it okay if I name some product names?
Sure.
Okay. Standard Process, which is a major vitamin mineral supplement company, has a
Hmm.
product called Phosfood, PHOSFOOD. And if you look up, you'll find practitioners that sell and distribute these products. They can show you how to use it. It is like the magic bullet. Of course, the base is phosphorus, but it's more complicated than that. And this product has been around probably since 1942, 43, something like that. Dramatically successful, but it's cheap and easy and safe. So, of
Yeah.
course, it's got very little press. No one
Yeah.
wants to research it because they can't get a big grant for it.
Yeah.
But those of us, and there are actually hundreds and hundreds of nutritionists and so on who've used this product. We all say the same thing when we talk to each
Yeah.
other. It's a really good product.
Yeah. And I intend to down the road to share with the viewers certain, because I do take certain type of specific vitamins. Those are
Yeah.
supplements that you can't just buy on a counter at Walmart or whatever. Those are not that's different. So, but again, I have to go through my dietitian who understands this very, very well, and this is not something I just eat take. It's structured as
That's
part of my daily intake. And in addition to, for example, I'm seeing people talking about kimchi. Well, I eat kimchi on a daily basis. How important kimchi is, because it's fermented food that is good for the gut, for the digestive system.
well, what it's doing is repopulating your small intestine with
Yeah.
friendly critters that digest your food for you and give you the good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. This is
And
why I think down the road we're gonna be talking about nutrition as far as the supplements and why it's good and so forth. So
oh yeah,
now, is there, for example, for to deal with migraine here, does the age matter? Like a younger person versus an elderly? a male versus a female?
Oh, male and female doesn't really matter because women are so vulnerable in terms of estrogen fluctuations.
Mm.
And boy, that's a real trigger. But I've successfully used something called black cohosh.
Mhm.
And within a couple of hours, this herbal formulation stabilizes and optimizes the levels of estrogen, especially estradiol, and the symptoms go away. But
Wow.
again, you've got to find a good brand and a healthcare practitioner who can tell you how to use it.
Yeah.
Uh, this
Except
hormone
that, for example,
this hormone fluctuation is really dangerous stuff. I'll give you an example. You start getting estrogen out of balance for men, and they lose their prostate to cancer because high levels of estrogen are not meant for male tissue. Okay, so we said, well, it's meant for female tissue. So we now start getting the progesterone and estrogen out of balance. And what do women get? Tumors and cancer. They'll get a tumor in their brain. They'll get a tumor in their ovary. They'll get tumors in their breasts.
wow.
And the hormone levels are easy to measure. That's a whole other show, though. I don't want to get down that because right now we're talking about migraines. You know, there's a product that's really coming onto its own called CBD oil. It comes from cannabis, and it's not like the get you stoned, but it is highly anti-inflammatory. And we're starting to see some phenomenal results with high quality CBD oil and the alleviation of the symptoms of migraine. And if you can get it, you can go to Whole Foods and get it.
Yeah.
You can get it anywhere that you want. Stores have it, drugstores have it. You can get it online. The point is you got to get a high quality one. And the whole point is get rid of pain, inflammation. I had a person who had pain in their thumb. Now, if you work the keyboard all day and you got pain in your thumb, you're now in trouble. They started applying CBD oil to their thumb, and the pain went away over time. They could use the keyboard again.
Right? Yeah.
You know, I never quite understood the chemistry underneath that. So I could never figure out the why it happened, but I could sure see the result.
Yeah.
Now, I think that there's probably some pretty good, more than theories out there as to how come it works, but I just don't know what it is.
Yeah. What about because I wanna address this one, even though usually I don't believe in medication and all that stuff. What about when a typical doctor puts someone on medication to deal with migraine? What are the consequences of taking that medication on that person? So this way, at least our viewers will hear and be aware of. But of course, it's their decision whether they want to embark on medication or not.
Well, the main medication is something called tryptane, and what it does is it restricts blood flow. Well, no one's going to tell me that restricting blood flow and causing cell death is healthy for you. We also know that over time, it has something we could call a rebound effect, but it's now causing you more harm than good. And the symptoms might come back much worse than when you started. So the current medical solutions have been unimpressive to me, whereas some of the other things that I'm going to recommend have been stunningly good.
And you did this because you did this in your programs, or
oh yeah, I've dealt with migraines extensively for 23 years.
Oh.
And I can tell you with a straight face that that's one of the things that we were always successful with. We always could manage Now, not 100%, but you know, the guy that had 23 hours, he considers that 100 success. I didn't consider it 100% success, but he certainly did.
Well, he has 23 hours of quality life.
Yeah, but most people were able to manage it. And here was the real superstar. And this is the one we ended up using practically all of the time, if not all the time, especially in the last few years. We use a particular blend of targeted proteins. We did tryptophan, 5-hydroxytryptophan, 5-HTP for serotonin. And then we had to balance it out with tyrosine for dopamine, and we had to put cysteine in for glutathione because you needed all three of these things to make the symptoms go dramatically reduce. And matter of fact, coincidentally, the manufacturer that we've been using for the last 23 years just came out with a new product line completely devoted to migraines.
Oh,
And at 3 o'clock this afternoon, I looked at the new product. I'm going, this is, if this is done correctly, we're going to see it, and it won't be.
And this, by the way, has to be managed by a health professional. Is that
someone
correct?
who's really skilled in the use of amino acids? Yes.
Yeah, because if somebody just take the stuff, it mess up the system.
You can't. Some of these things you just can't pretend. You can't toy with. You have to be in the hands of somebody who's really done it.
Yeah.
This particular one I've done 2,900 times, and it is so effective in terms of knocking out migraines.
Interesting.
But it is almost miraculous when you see this thing work.
Yeah.
People who are truly, truly suffering, and these amino acids come in, boom.
Yeah. Can the same protocol works for, let's say, hypothetically, chronic disease like Alzheimer's, like dementia, like Parkinson's, like?
Yes and no. Here are the two superstars: fibromyalgia and migraines. Now, if you've got fibromyalgia, you're suffering. You can knock it out in 6 weeks. Then you have to stay. Then you have to stay on a program. And migraines, we knock them out. Sometimes it's sort of time is 3 weeks, but more likely 6 or 7 weeks, because you got to get the exact dosage right. Because everybody is uniquely different. Their chemistry is different. So, and the shoe size is different. I mean, people are different from each other.
You're right.
But those are the two superstars. Parkinson's, if we catch it early enough, we can raise the levels of dopamine to the point that they can get 75% of their movement back, 75% of their brain.
Wow.
Now, if they've been on prescription medications for very long, the damage is so great, thanks to the prescription, that we can't help them.
Wow. Very, very interesting.
But boy, we dealt with a lot of Parkinson people, and they got their life back.
Yeah. Well, because medication will only contribute to further decline of people's health. I mean, we all know what medication does. So you guys, just FYI, and this is nothing but a friendly advice, if you can stay away from medication, the better it will be for you health-wise. So just think twice before you decide, okay, I take medication just because the doctor says so. I had a doctor way back, without naming his name because I respect his privacy, and so he doesn't practice anymore. And I think I already shared this story. The first time we met, and I can put things on the table. I say, hey, doc, I respected the years of studies you went through and all that stuff, but here is the thing. I usually don't like medication because I don't like to take it. Would you be kind enough to respect that when I come see you? He said, by no means. Anytime you tell me if you want it, I'll prescribe it. If not, I won't. So one time I went and I had a bad strep throat. And I asked him, I said, do I need medication for this? I said, not necessarily. If you go home and sleep for 2 days, you'll be fine. And that's exactly what happened. So, and I respected him for that because he was honest with me.
Yeah.
Didn't just prescribe medication. because you know how it is. You're in the health field. You know, doctors will have to meet certain quota of how many patients they saw and how much prescription they wrote. This is why our members of Congress are so corrupted because of the
Yes.
pharmaceutical lobbyists. Yeah. So.
You know, I used to be involved in medical economics,
Mhm.
and the pressures on the medical community to see person after person after person, hour after hour, was just awful. I couldn't imagine why anyone would want to do that because they couldn't do quality work. But if you're going to see six or seven people an hour, how much time does it mean you get to spend with somebody? Not much.
Not much.
Not much.
Mm, yeah.
So let me name the name of this amino acid program.
Uh-huh.
It's called CHK amino acids. You can go online, look it up, look at the research. Remarkably impressive quality research by people who really knew what they were doing. And then if you call them, they'll put you on to a practitioner who can help you.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
And I'll,
they've got it. It's so well documented that they've got. Here's exactly what the doctor's going to tell you.
yeah, what they know, they do the research and they know. So
Yeah,
you know. Here's the thing. I like to always take few questions from the viewers here because I always like them to be part of our conversation because we are
absolutely.
here to learn and so forth. So I'm just looking. Julian, he wrote. Let me see here. Before we answer this one, it was Liang that put a comment about the greenish bananas and so forth. He knows what I'm talking about. And I mentioned as long as you have the banana that is a little bit green, not too green because it will be hard, but not too yellow either because that's where the amount of sugar it'll be high. So greenish will be good. So anyway, here is what I wrote. Has anyone heard of collagen peptides?
Well, what
What
we
is
know
that?
is your face is full of collagen. Your flesh. This is what gives you the fleshy look of your face and other
Mm,
parts of your body. Collagen is really important, and it's hard to get.
wow,
And so
interesting.
if they found ways to inject the collagen into your face and have it stay, you look younger.
Interesting. Yeah. I
So
see
color.
this one here that is very interesting. HZ wrote cow milk or healthier alternative. Example, oat or almond milk. I have an experience with this, if I may share it. I was in the Middle East, and it was I think in Saudi Arabia, if I'm not mistaken. And I was invited to a farm, and at night we were me and my colleagues from Washington and so forth, and the guy who owns the farm just went over to one of the camels, milked the camels, and gave me the milk, and I drank it. So I gave some to my colleague, and he said, "No, no, 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 it's not filtered." And I said, "Man, you have no idea what you're missing." Of course, I felt sorry for my colleague because he did not know much about the Middle East. I read up and did the research about it. So I goggled all that camel milk and I was fine. So, as a matter of fact, today, when I said today, this time, once a week I go to a local farm here where I buy the milk, raw milk from there. I just drink it and make yogurt out of it.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah, I don't buy milk from the grocery store. Don't ever, guys, drink that milk from the grocery store.
Dr. O,
Literally.
do you know how to make kefir from raw milk?
Yes, I do.
Oh, we
Yeah,
need to talk. We need to
yeah, I'll
talk.
be happy to. Because here's the thing. I have yogurt every night before bedtime. I do a little bit, half cup, and
Yes,
it helps me sleep. But that's pure milk and kefir. Pure kefir, no sugar, natural, everything.
right, right,
There's no
right.
sugar, there is nothing. So, but the milk, I get it from the farm, raw milk. Same with butter, real butter. So,
Well, if people knew what pasteurizing milk did to the proteins, they wouldn't
yeah,
drink it.
yeah, that's why I don't touch the
The
one at the
proteins
store.
in milk start as nice round circles,
Uh huh.
and by the time they've been pasteurized, they're no longer digestible
That's it.
proteins.
Yeah.
So we see people with all kinds of intestinal problems because they're
Yeah.
putting something that's been so denatured that your body has no idea what to do with it except
Yeah.
putrefy it. Oh,
Yeah.
putrefy it? Well, that sounds really bad. Well, it is,
It is
because they
bad.
can't digest it.
Yeah. And that's
So
why when yeah, go ahead.
I like your idea of kefir and yogurt. I want to make kefir
Yeah.
and do it before bed, just the way you're doing it. That's the
Well,
research says it's going to help you sleep.
well, it does. Literally, I contribute my good sleep also to that little half a cup that I do every night before bedtime, and it helps me sleep. So, somebody asking, what is CBD? CBD, the oil.
CBD, it comes from cannabis. Cannabis is what marijuana is from,
Yeah.
and there's so many different varieties of this. The researchers have developed some remarkably good that produce a particular kind of anti-inflammatory oil.
Mm.
And this oil, you can actually put it on topically. You can digest it. You can put it in, they now have it in the form of little gummy bears.
Mm-hmm.
And when it starts cutting inflammation, it starts cutting the amount of pain that you feel. And we are experimenting right now with what we think is the highest quality we know of CBD oil. And you apply it to the skin, and it's super absorbing because of how they've done it. And the inflammation is within minutes. So if you're going to put it here, or you're going to put it here, or wherever you have any kind of pain, the result is pretty darn dramatic and quick. So it comes from the same thing as marijuana,
Yeah.
and you can get it virtually every place at least the United States. I don't know about other countries.
Yeah. And that's Michael wrote, Michael Chua here. Dr. David had chiropractor care twice a month for 20 years. My kyphotic scoliosis, I don't know what that is, was well managed and
Well, it's a
prevented
particular
from.
kind of curve in your back that's really unhealthy.
That's what it is. He
It's
said he was
scoliosis, yeah.
yeah, he said he was well managed and prevented from worsening. Thanks to Dr. Ross and to you. You are most welcome, and thanks for sharing. Truly appreciate it. I saw someone here who said that takes vitamin D, 1000 IU. Is it from the counter? Because if it is from the counter, I won't count on it. Anything from the counter at the store, you have to be careful with that.
Let me give you the latest research on vitamin D3. For one thing, you have to take it in combination with something called K2, which is a blood clotting factor.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to take K2, D3, and you need to take not 1,000 units, you need to take 10,000 units. That's if you want the anti-cancer properties. So I applaud you for taking one, but you got to take it in this combination if you're going to get the full effect. And it's 10 times more than you're currently taking. And you got to take it with K2, or it will not be absorbed.
Interesting. Yeah, and as I said earlier, Doc, we will be talking about certain vitamins, certain amino acids down the road, and because there's a lot to health is a journey, in my
Hopefully a
opinion.
long one. Hopefully a long
Yeah,
journey, but yeah.
yeah.
But if you're not paying
It-
attention,
that's how I always look at it, and I say it's always say to myself, because there's one thing I never want in my life. I don't want to depend on others to take care of me when I get old. That I refuse to. So I said to myself, well, I'd rather invest in my health, and I've been investing in it for the last 4 decades or 5. So that's in addition now to having certain key supplements, vitamins, certain type of food, and so forth, and I'm very, very grateful for all that. So, any final thoughts, Doc, before we let you go?
yes. If you're one of those people who suffers from migraines, at the very first sign of it's coming on you, get to a dark room and lay down flat on your back. and see it and breathe very calmly and regularly to see if you can get control of the symptoms rather than have it just spring on you and you have no control over it, and then you suffer for days, hours, or days. So everything we're about here is get you in charge of your own life.
Yeah, instead of having the medical community dictate the terms, which I
Exactly.
refuse. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Doc. We truly appreciate you carving out time for me here because it means a lot. I know you busy during the week with your, consultations, coaching programs, health stuff, and all that. And I do find it amazing that you have the energy after all what you do throughout the day to come here and explain to us all this. Thank you so much for that, and I truly appreciate it. So,
It's really a pleasure and a privilege to do this.
thank you so much. So, all right, guys, I hope you find this very informative. Like I always say, we are very grateful to have Dr. Stewart carve out some time for us. Literally, this is something you're not gonna find anywhere else. You're not gonna hear much talking about because, first of all, pharmaceutical won't want. I'm sure you heard about what happened. I think with what's his name, Dr. Burke. They shut down some of his because the pharmaceutical didn't like, and it's exactly he talks about what we talk about here. So. And I am not. I give credit to Dr. Stewart. I am not because it's not my area. I'm just facilitating the conversation. What I can share with you is my own experiences when it comes down to health because what you see in me, I'm the example of taking care of myself health wise. And so this is what I wanted to share with you. And I look forward to seeing you next week. As always, remember your health is your best asset. Till next time. Bye bye.